Word up, our users. That intro song was about the closest I could come to something that represents the 1990s kind of hip hop ish, rap ish. I'm not even sure where word comes from, but it was kind of a joke in the 90s. It was like a cool way to agree. Word. Word to your mother was actually, I think, the full phrase. No one said that. Hello. Anyway, my name's John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, the best kind of psychology there is, and about a 12-year user of OR for normal, boring statistical and analytical operations. But for the majority of the time I've been using R, I've also been executing full projects from within the same environment that I specify in my R script. So this is known, or it's consistent with this idea of literate programming. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's consistent with that idea. And it's certainly a practice that is also consistent with this grander, broader idea of reproducible research. So every week I hang out for about an hour here Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern. And I'm just here as a resource if there's other people out there who are interested in structuring their work this way. So what we do is we use this metaphor of an academic office hour, and that just literally means if you stumble across this and are interested in the topic or have a question, want to know something about what we're doing or how you might be able to leverage it, just drop a note in the comments. We do this, the reason I do it live, well, there's a few reasons. One, I kind of like just flying by the seat of my pants a little bit. I prefer that to a lot of structure and over preparation. If I prepare anything for with too much effort, I have a lot of anxiety about delivering on that. If I just kind of go by the seat of my pants, build the airplane as you're flying, as they say, then I don't know, it's just more natural to me. So I like doing that. But we're also live in case someone wants to pop by and has a question. And so the intent of this is to be interactive. And literally, if you have anything to say, any comments or questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll try to keep an eye on those. In the absence of that, what we've been looking at are just featured capabilities and kind of focused features of the platforms that we're using, the software we're using, the packages that we're using that helps us make these products within which we embed analytical things. So we're going to have data visualizations, we're going to have analyses, we're going to have summary of those analyses, just like you normally would when you go to an analytical processor. But we're going to envelop those or embed those within a broader document, a broader presentation, a broader method to communicate what we're doing in terms of the analyses themselves. And so that's facilitated by historically packages if you're coming from an R tradition, or contemporarily we use an independent piece of software called Quarto, and we're going to be exploring Quarto tonight and taking a look at some of the ways in which Quarto can produce a Word document. Now, kind of silly, it's there's a bit of irony here that we're looking at Word documents because this process that we're promoting in terms of how to structure your work is kind of replacing Microsoft Word papers and documents of the Microsoft Word type are probably the most common types of things that you can create using these processes. We don't usually endeavor. I use that word too much, but we don't usually try to reproduce what we're doing in a Microsoft Word format, but you can do that. So we're going to do that tonight. And the way that we structure things is still preferred because again, staying consistent with this concept of reproducibility. We have plain text specification of what we want eventually to pass off and hand off to someone else. And that plain text specification is documentation, and it's very, very important in terms of the ability to go back and correct, or the ability to share with other people if there's any questions about what you've done. Okay, so that's enough soapbox for old Professor Koulis here. So let's get into our transition into what we did last week. So before we look at the focal topic each week, we will cover what happened the previous week, because the way that we look at these topics each week is completely unstructured. It is open-ended. Never really know what direction it's going to take. I don't have any sort of outline. That's what the comments are for. That's why it's interactive. The hope is that there might be a little direction given by people who stumble across and want to say, hey, try this. Eventually, I think we'll get there. But because that's the way we structure things, at the beginning of each subsequent week, we will do a recap of what happened the previous week and try to present that in a format that's maybe a little more digestible in terms of learning or extracting kind of bits of knowledge or useful tidbits from what happened last week. All right, so what did happen last week?
Well, Colonel McCornpone didn't know what he was starting when he sponsored a treasure hunt for a pot containing $1 million in Confederate money. Not only did the citizens of Frostbite Falls dig the streets full of holes, but the light-fingered 5-2 took advantage of the situation to rob the town bank. Bullwinkle was pursuing them closely, but when he took a shortcut down a mountainside, he wound up in front of the car he was chasing. Of course, when he stopped suddenly to let an elderly chipmunk cross the road, a collision was inevitable.
Inhovidable?
That means it was bound to happen.
Hey, you're right!
The leader of the gang, Babyface Braunschweiger,
Alias, you know who?
was just picking himself up when Bullwinkle approached.
Oh, for Daisy's sake, let me help you!
You're helping me?
Of course!
You mean you don't remember what happened?
Certainly! Let's see,
Not only a chipmunk, it was an elderly chipmunk. I haven't been following that storyline, so I'm not sure if that's instrumental to the story or not. I kind of thinking it probably isn't, but I don't know. The depth of the inside jokes that must have gone on in the actual creation of those cartoons, they must have been so funny. I imagine the creators, when they watched it actually launch, were probably just rolling on the floor laughing. In terms of inside jokes that are on there. I don't know if elderly chipmunk is one of them, but that certainly struck me as an odd piece of specification there. Okay, so last week, the reason we're doing Word tonight is because last week we looked at a different Microsoft product, which was PowerPoint. And since I started doing this 9-10 years ago or so, this way of structuring my work, I've really weaned myself from Microsoft products, again, not because of any sort of ethical or principled or philosophical dispute or issue that I have with that entity. I don't have any dispute with them whatsoever. I just really enjoy structuring my work from within my analytical environment such that I'm producing primarily HTML and PDF document types. So I don't really have any need for or much need for Microsoft at this point. We did mention last week, Excel is evil, so I do have something against Excel, but PowerPoint and Word, they're fine for what they are in terms of creating paper type documents and slide presentation type documents as well. Is that called a document? Slide presentations as well. And so we did produce PowerPoints using the processes that we talk about every week here on this channel. And these aren't exhaustive. I got kind of lazy putting this week's slides together. These slides are available in the comments, as is the tutorial that I've been putting on there in terms of building your own report. If you see me yammering on about these things and are curious about what it's like to actually engage in these processes, you should be able to just cut and paste from the tutorial slides into your local session with whatever ID you favor or are running. You should be able to reproduce a report and see, hey, I like this, or maybe it's not quite for me. But the pros and cons, again, I didn't put a ton of thought into this, a ton of research into this. This was kind of just off the top of my head of what my reactions were to last week going through and specifying PowerPoint slides. Well, firstly, it was fine. So the way in which we structure the slides that you're looking at, which are called Reveal.js slides, is entirely consistent with the way that we specified PowerPoint slides. So you do retain that essential feature of reproducibility, which is a plain text specification of the thing that you're trying to produce. So we still have that. This comes from a QMD file. QMD are the three letters that identify the extension on Quarto document types that we deal with a lot on this channel. We're going to deal with again tonight. But so from that QMD, you can specify PowerPoint slides, just like you can specify Art Reveal.js slides. You can specify PDF documents, HTML documents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so in terms of one of the reasons in which you would want to do this is just the sheer ubiquity of PowerPoint. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows of it. Many people, probably the majority, the plurality certainly of people that are giving presentations are using PowerPoints. We mentioned last week, I forgot to look up what that name is. There's a name. There's a way to refer to a product that takes over, that a brand that takes over a product description. So Xerox for photocopiers. PowerPoint has kind of done the same thing with presentation slides. So someone will ask for a PowerPoint, even if they're not necessarily expecting you to deliver it in that format. The word is going to be used. Just give me a PowerPoint. And so everybody knows what these things are. They're very pervasive in work and academic applications. And so it's nice to be able to render to. And when I say render to, that's the process of going from your plain text specification to a final product type. So it's nice to have the ability to render to this format that everybody knows and most people use and appreciate. We didn't run it fully through the ringer in terms of all its capabilities, but we checked out some kind of core capabilities that are going to be important. I know there are extra ones that are supported, but we didn't check out. So for example, incremental lists are something that are supported using this process, and that's where you kind of scroll through and you get progressively more content that's being displayed. But we did check out columns, bullets, speaker notes, as well as what's probably most important for this weekly session, where we're not just talking about plain text specification of a product type that you eventually want to deliver to someone, but we're talking about plain text specification that also supports analytical things. And so it's not just writing a paper, but it's creating a report that has analytical components in it. It's creating a website that has some analytical aspect to it. And so the code echoing is something that is important or can be important depending on your audience, but it's certainly something that, coming from an R background, using these processes to structure and create things that I want to create, it's nice to be able to not only echo, but have an enhanced capability of sharing the way in which you created whatever it is that we're talking about. So code echoing is just sharing the script that you wrote that specifies whatever the capability is that you're presenting in your analytical pursuit. So this one, portability across rendering formats, I think it's nice the way that Quarto, and prior to that, our markdown as well, but I think it's nice the facility through which you can switch between different product types. So a Reveal.js slide deck versus a Beamer slide deck. We haven't talked about that. We probably will one of these weeks. Versus a PowerPoint format versus a website versus a book. It's just oftentimes it's just a simple YAML specification. It's just changing a single word in the metadata of your document. And that certainly is something that's appreciated. It's not something unique to PowerPoint slides. It's something that is shared across everything that we do here on a weekly basis. It's a pro, but it's not a pro that's only associated with PowerPoint. It's a pro that's definitely associated with specifying PowerPoint slides from within these environments that we talk about, which are platforms like RStudio, Positron, VS Code, Jupyter Lab. Those are probably the four most popular ones that do what we do on a weekly basis. And then the last pro that I identified here in terms of why to, or just general reactions in terms of creating PowerPoint slides from these QMD specifications, is that the end user, so you can specify a PowerPoint, you can deliver it, hand it off to someone, and they can take it and they can click and drag around, they can add fonts, they can blow up things, they can change the sizing of images, for example. You can do everything you would do in a normal PowerPoint slide presentation, because it is a normal PowerPoint slide presentation. That's good, and it's more bad than good in my opinion. But most people are going to view that as being good and desirable because I don't want to get into because in terms of the not so positive aspects of it, if I were arm twisted to say what don't I like, one of the things that's a bit of an obstacle, or could be a bit of an obstacle, is the way in which you kind of customize the look of your PowerPoint. So within HTML documents, there's a lot of customization that you're looking at here just with these slides. There's a washed out center in terms of blue on the outside, and then coming into that washed out blue or a lighter blue. There's PowerPoint in a different font, in a different color as well. There's an icon to the right of it. There's an image to the upper right. There's different fonts that are specified here for the headings in terms of pros and cons. There's emojis. There's all kinds of formatting that are easy to accomplish through Reveal.js slides via CSS. Now, CSS is something I did not know what CSS was 2 years ago when I started using Quarto. Especially now with AI, you don't need to know really CSS. You need to know what it is, and it controls the way HTML renderings look, appear, feel. So it's in charge of styling of your HTML pages and content. And so that's a very kind of, at this point, it's a very kind of comfortable way to control how things look. Similarly with PDF documents, the way in which you control styling is a little wonkier because historically the tradition that PDF documents come from in terms of their specification was much more concerned about the substance of your content than the styling of it. So it's a little clunkier, I would say, but it's there, and this would be controlled through LaTeX specifications and through LaTeX packages. Quarto has done a great job, I think, of trying to marry those two traditions so it's less consequential for you as someone that's putting documents together. But none of that stuff is there for PowerPoint. So PowerPoint's a different creature. So PowerPoint, in terms of styling, some of the Quarto specifications that we've played with over the course of weeks are still going to be there. I believe main font we should have checked that out actually when we looked at some of these pros, but I believe main font in terms of a meta specification in the document should be operative. But the strongest control and the most direct and immediate control that you're going to have over how your document looks is to create a template. Not a big deal, but you need to go within PowerPoint and kind of change how things look, the background, the font, things like that. So that's the way in which you would most easily control style using PowerPoint. Again, not a huge con, but it's a con to me just because there is a dependency there in terms of how things are going to be reproduced by someone else that's not fully under your control within the plain text specification of the content that you're interested in. So minor quibble there, but definitely I would put it in the con category instead of pro category. Um, the shareability options, I am not. I guess it. This isn't a dig on PowerPoint as much as it is a an appreciation of the Reveal.js slide formats. Every week I share with you these slides. Hopefully people are using them. I have fun putting them together. But there's a link that I put in the comments section each week. And if you get to the comments too soon, it's in the description of the video down below. But it's so easy for me. It's not even a single push button. I just kind of have my workflow set up such that when I make my slides, they're available to all of you on a URL. And it's a very easy way to actually share. With PowerPoints, my experience with PowerPoints when I was using them in an academic context and in a work context as well, is they would be emailed back and forth, or if you have a shared drive or some other capability to actually communicate with other people, it would be an attachment. You would attach it. And it's not a huge deal, but I mean, there are limitations there. So if the thing gets really wonky, you're not going to be able to email it easily. You might have to zip it. There's a few other layers of headache in terms of sharing, and it's so quick and easy using Reveal.js slides. So the main issue here I have in terms of shareability is primarily thinking about what you're looking at here in terms of these Reveal.js slides as a comparison. And there is no comparison there in terms of shareability. It's, if you have some security or confidentiality issues or concerns, then this is probably something that's not going to concern you. But in my opinion, you should be taking care of those confidentiality concerns in in a way where the hosting, the sharing doesn't really matter. I mean, email can always be compromised. There's there's probably a false sense of security in terms of the way in which PowerPoints are shared versus just hosting something at a URL that's widely available or accessible. There's other things that can be done to kind of increase the likelihood that the information you have is going to be secure anyway with these Reveal.js slides. We're not going to get into it tonight, but I have a bunch of kind of methods that I use. And then one of the big cons, I guess, is the absence of interactivity for support. Now, there is a way to introduce interactivity within PowerPoint slides, but we didn't last week explore fully the merging of the native PowerPoint capability in terms of being receptive to interactivity and the plain text specification. For example, trying to get something like a plotly object to be recognized within PowerPoint. Now, it was able to take, we did take interactive things. I think we took a GIF, so one of those moving image files, and it would just take a snapshot. Now that's typically the way that PDF documents deal with interactivity as well. So, this is more of an issue with PowerPoint than it is an issue of specifying PowerPoint from within the structure of work that we talk about here weekly. And then again, the end user customization, I definitely side more on the con side than the pro side. You lose a lot, you just lose control. And one of the things about these reproducible research workflows is they are fantastic for control freaks. If the control freaks don't in society, they're not always universally appreciated. They tend to fall on the other side of societal kind of perspectives. It's generally considered a bad thing. But us data people that are dealing with data and controlling data, manipulating data, and presenting data, control is really important. And you have to at least be okay with control. You don't have to crave it, but You should appreciate it. And so we're losing quite a bit of control by specifying what we have in terms of our rendering and then handing it off, or even you personally taking it and saying, oh, I wish that image was a little bit bigger. I'm going to actually click and drag and move stuff around. Maybe not a big deal, but you're definitely losing some control in terms of being able to fully reproduce what you've created. Okay, so enough on PowerPoint. Maybe not enough on PowerPoint because we're actually going to talk about PowerPoint's cousin, Word. So Wordup, yo, we're going back to the 90s here. I don't think, it wasn't ever that popular in the 90s. I don't think it's popular today either. I can't remember the last time I heard someone say Wordup. And these raccoons, they don't look like they can speak anyway. So I'm guessing that if, well, how about this? If they could speak, they'd probably go, chit, 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 chit. But if they could speak English, I imagine they probably would be saying word. They'd also be going whoop, 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 whoop. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't speak 90s raccoon. Okay. So let's take a look at Word. This is, I think, a bit of a dry topic. So I thought we might be able to spice it up a little bit by maybe using a different IDE. We've been primarily staying within our studio, but I've been, in my day-to-day work, I've been increasingly using Jupyter Lab, so I thought we might jump into Jupyter Lab. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments if anyone pops by and says, let's do VS Code, or let's do Positron, or let's do what, Pluto. We could do Pluto. Pluto, we've only looked at a little bit, but there's so many. I haven't tried this within some of the Python IDEs. I used to use Spider when I was kind of forced to use Python. So we might jump into one of those. But let's see here. There's a very short, if you're accessing this week's slides, there's a very short shorter than some of the other document formats, information that the Quarto team has shared with us in terms of documentation for Word. And I think just kind of projecting here my own experience with this stuff, I'm guessing that this is not the most popular format for people who engage in these workflows to want to create. But we'll play with some of this stuff. Table of contents, that's interesting. That's something that I'm not sure. It's something that we're going to be appreciative of if we are rendering to something like a technical report. Tables of contents are really important there. You have options of leaving a heading or a subheading out of the table of contents. That's what that curly bracket unnumbered means. It means just don't put it in the table of contents. Syntax highlighting, we're going to want to check out because, again, if you want to, idiomatic. So this is interesting. I've never seen this before, but that's actually a value that syntax highlighting can take. We'll check that out for sure. That's interesting to me. Okay. Yeah, very, very sparse here. Not a lot of information. There will be more information on the options page here. And some of these, I haven't found these to be 100% reliable on the Quarto team side of things. So the documentation, these sorts of pages that list kind of YAML parameters or YAML fields that are accepted, at least over the course of the last year or so, there is occasionally content that makes it onto these pages that doesn't seem to work. And I'm guessing what happens, this is what I would do if I were creating these, is the team kind of has a listing and that listing gets shared across document types, and maybe you've just forgotten to exclude something on one of these specific format types. Just a guess, but that's to me what looks like is occasionally happening here. Here we're seeing the idiomatic again. So formats, native syntax. Okay, so that's probably not gonna do anything with Word documents, but it might do something with a PDF or typist document type, I'm guessing. And then execution, that's fine. These are all kind of things we would want to play with anyway. Figure, captions, and height specifications, table. Ooh, there's not much there for tables. Okay, so let's do a table for sure. References, we might as well put a reference in. Cross references hopefully work the same as they do in other document types. So there's a lot here in terms of specifications that we can have. Now, I've just mentioned Jupyter Lab. I thought we might actually use it. So it looks like there may be some Jupyter Lab specific kind of functions that we could play with. All right, let's do this. Let's just do it. So I'll start with our studio just so we can walk through the creation of a template, see what it looks like. So let's do a project directory because I think we do want to do some references. So I am going to go into a project that I don't use, that I'm going to try to find a project that we've used before on these weekly sessions, such that it doesn't have a lot of content in there that I really care about personally. Yeah, this is definitely us. This looks like something where we were playing around. What else did we do here? Oh, we're playing with our callouts. Okay, perfect. We can use this one. So I'm going to do a new file, a new Quarto document. I do have Quarto installed on my machine. It's not a package. It's a piece of software that you're going to want to install on your local machine, independent of R, independent of RStudio, independent of Jupyter Lab, just a piece of software. And RStudio will find it, Jupyter Lab will find it, VS Code will find it, Positron will find it. Let's do, before we do the Word document, let's try our default HTML product type, document type, because it just is Wordio. Wordio. I just lost my radio, so bear with me for a second while we take a look here. There it is. So this is our kind of boilerplate template that the Quarto team gives us when we are requesting a Quarto document through RStudio. Again, keep in mind that Quarto and RStudio are both provided by the same parent company, Posit. So if I mix my reference there, that's probably what's happening. So let's just see if we can change that to a Word document. I don't do this, so it feels a little, I don't know, it feels a little dirty. I feel like I shouldn't be doing it. Do I have any admonitions here? All kinds of weird stuff going on here. I have been getting spammed over the course of the last 2 weeks. I don't know who it is. It's one of those deals where you want to actually do something about it, but you can't block it because they keep coming from similar looking but slightly different phone addresses. Doggone people. Now they've crossed the line though. They interfered with my lounge music. Now that's a bridge too far. Of course you realize this means war. That's the Bugs Bunny drop that I need to get. All right. So did we render this yet? I forget. I was talking and looking. No, we created wordyo.html. We have not yet created wordyo.doc. So let's see if that works. Watch it blow up immediately. Hey, look at that. It even pulls up Word. So that was unexpected. So I did not expect the preview to pull up. We saw last week with PowerPoint through RStudio that we did not get the application itself, PowerPoint, that did not automatically pull up. Now it's possible that has to do with a local setting I have, but I did not expect Word to just pull up. So that is nice. We do not have the clipboard, so just like with PD, I think PDF and Typist, I do not believe clipboard is enabled in a Quarto document through either one of those two document types. We should be able to play with the code highlighting just right here. Now you can see there's a 1+1 that's rendered in a different color than the output itself. And this one, only the output is actually given. The code itself is hidden. So let's play with some different things. So let's see if we can do the column specification. I don't think we can. Bullets should be fine. So bullet 1, bullet 2. So we're using, I often say authoring with R. R is the analytical processor I prefer, but we're going to run into the same issue that we had last week in terms of it doesn't want to give you something new if the old file is open. So that's what just happened there, I'm guessing. And now we're not going to get our preview. Okay, so came through once. Probably going to have to expect it not to automatically pull up each time. The bullets are working fine. When I say, I interrupted myself, but when we say authoring with R, really what we mean is embedding bits of code within a broader document that is largely supported in formatting via markdown or LaTeX. And so what you're seeing here is the markdown specification of bullets. I'm really curious about some of the built-in Quarto kind of neat shorthand that we can do for formatting. And I do not believe that this is going to be operative. So we'll do it first in an HTML document. And then we'll try it. Then we'll try it with the document. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave the heading Quarto alone, and I'm going to see if we can place the content here into two separate columns using the column specification that we would normally use if we were rendering either, well, a HTML type. And I do like to specify width in these. It's just kind of the way that I roll, as they say, as the kids don't say and probably never said. By the way, if you go over 100 as you're specifying these, you can get some really some wonky results. So let's try this as a HTML document, expecting that it will look just fine. And the fenced specification also tends to work fine in PDF and typist document types. You know what? Let's move Quarto down within that column because it just looks goofy. I didn't like that. So we'll re-render it and have Quarto kind of on the same level as the next one, which says running code. That looks a lot prettier. I don't like untitled either. Why would it be untitled? Let's say no, this is definitely titled. And then we'll go ahead and see if we can do a Word document. And I'm old enough to remember, toward the tail end of me using Word documents, they did have the X extension. Yeah, okay. So that's not unexpected. That was kind of expected that wouldn't work. Bullets do work. Looks like I am getting, did I get a note? Or that's just, okay. That's just Word's interactivity in terms of if you want to add something here, you can. So columns aren't being recognized. That's fine. That wasn't unexpected. Let's try the, what was that, the code formatting? What do I have here? I think I have a link to the help page. There we go. So let's try a different syntax highlighting. We had the idiosyncratic, which I'm really curious about. So I think we want to try that for sure. I just want to see what other options are here. Looks like there are a ton. Supported themes include ally, arrow, pigments. Okay, so let's try a few of these. These might be some of the. I'm not. If they're operative within within Word, they're probably operative within other document types as well. I've never played with them. Now, when you're getting to this level of specificity in the YAML, the front matter of your document itself, you're going to probably want to engage in nested YAML commands. So I am going to do that. So I took the docx from after format and I just did a hard return. RStudio usually will indent for you. We're going to see if it recognizes this different formatting type. Let me take a screenshot of what we got here. You know what? Let's do some more interesting code before we do that. So we just have a 1+1 in the output of it right now. Let's actually get a graph in here because that'll be a little more interesting. We'll do a Palmer Penguins because we like that. I was just here today for a different project. We already have the package installed, so I don't need to do that. I was kind of hoping we just find a scatter plot or something. There's a scatter plot that looks like what we want. Why is it this? Okay. You thing, why don't you give me a nice Palmer Penguins? Let's go to images. You know, this, I seem to recall this happening before, like us actually going through this. When I say us, I mean me looking for code to steal, and you probably saying, "Kulas, you idiot! It's right there. Grab it." It's all coming from the same spot. Would like a nice visual that now our pubs is sometimes duplicated. It's just a duplicate of kind of some of these other pages that we're looking at, but they often have content that's nice to take, nice to steal. But yeah, this looks like it. Oh no, there we go. This is the type of code we want. Looks like to me. Thanks, Raj. Appreciate that. So let's try Raj's code here, and we'll just load the load the package. Now you got to be careful with Palmer Penguins because there is a Palmer Penguins dataset that comes with base R, and so you can kind of drive yourself loony. It's different. It's not the same. It's not shared. But you can drive yourself a little loony looking for. I'm going to get rid of the columns because they're not operative within these Word documents. We kind of suspected that. Now we know that. That's fine. We don't need this. Let's try an HTML file first to make sure that our scatterplot renders. It doesn't like that good old Kulas added the Palmer Penguins, but forgot to add ggplot, the actual engine that powers the visual itself. That was another rookie mistake. Such a rookie. 12 years in, I'm still a rookie. There it is. That's a nice looking graph. It actually looks really, really nice. I am going to get rid of we'll echo, because echo is kind of nice to have, especially if we're going to check out syntax highlighting or code highlighting. I'm sorry, but let's kind of get rid of some of these warnings in between the bits of code because it's a little harder to read there. So I'm just going to do the hash pipe or the octothorpe vertical line and say echo true. It's already doing that. That's redundant. I don't need to, but we'll do it anyway. Warning false and message false usually takes care of that. And that's possible. We'll need to come back and add something, but generally speaking, that clears it up most of the time. There we go. Now we just have one code chunk with our nice clipboard copying, so we can go back and forth into the QMD if we want to. Let's do one more thing here. So let's add a label, which will make it cross-referenceable. So we'll call it Chili for Chili Willy in reference to our favorite channel penguin, which is Chili Willy, and then we'll give it a fig cap as well. And I don't think we need, so Quarto is a little better than the old R markdown package system in terms of spaces with content. So I don't believe we need a double quotes here, but we'll see. We'll try it. We're actually adding quite a bit, but that's okay. Let's see if we can do a cross-reference here. Check out the pretty visual and then we'll just add the fig, whatever we called it here, fig chili. And let's add a picture of Chili Willy as well, just to see. Now we're doing a lot, which is not best practice. We shouldn't be tweaking so much before we check out whether or not kind of incrementally each of those work within the Word document. That's kind of a cute picture of Chili. I'm going to right click, copy the image address. We'll just put it in these parentheses here. And RStudio typically does a good job of giving you a preview of that. So let's see what we have. So here's our cross-reference. And the Quarto preview upon hover is there. I like that. Our figure caption is there. The "Was up yo" happened fine without double quotes on it. And Chili Willy is there. That's fine. Okay. So that's what we're going to be looking for in the Word document before we play with the code highlighting. Let's just see that the cross-reference is there. Now, I don't expect we get preview upon hover with a Word document. That doesn't make much sense. But certainly the image didn't, I think we already saw that. No, we saw that only in HTML. Figure caption, figure numbering we're going to want to take a look at, and then Chili we're going to want to take a look at as well. So let's do that, shall we? Cross your fingers. If you're out there looking, you got to cross your fingers. Let me see. I don't have a cross your fingers. I do have a we're being, well, I won't play it. Let's see what happens. Well, gave us something. So this looks the same as what we had. It looks the same to me in terms of color scheme. So the main thing we're going to see in the code highlighting should be color scheme. This looks the same to me. Ally will be an interesting one that should actually maximize for accessibility in terms of visual accessibility of that. I would imagine it would be high contrast. There's our image, and now just like within Word, this is something you can take and kind of alter. Now it looks to me like this is being saved as just an image, because as we stretch it, you're seeing some fidelity loss there in terms of the words particularly. They're getting pixelated the bigger I get, so I was kind of curious about that. And again, I don't use Word, so I'm not sure if I'm using this correctly or not. It looks like I can twist it. It's kind of fun. Now I can't twist it back. All right, you're just there. Sorry. There's Chili. Okay. So that looked fine. Let's see if we can play with this a little bit. So I'm going to take doc off of line 3 here. I'm going to add it on line 4, and then we're going to try syntax highlighting. Now, I imagine that the default is not that. Default might be GitHub, so what are you doing? I don't want. Oh, because I twisted the image. That's kind of nice. It asks you if you want to save what you did. Of course, I don't want to save it because I was kind of bastardizing the image there. And that's who would want to save that? Oh my goodness, that looks quite different. Okay, so the GitHub flavor is quite a bit different. To me, this stands out more. We lost our high contrast background. That was unexpected. I wasn't expecting the background to go away. Now, syntax highlighting should be shared across document formats, so we should be able to take. Yeah, it's just a little more prominent in. Boy, the HTML renderings just look so slick. They look so nice and sharp. Color scheme definitely the same, but the background is better in HTML. I don't know why it disappeared on us in doc format. But we'll go back to that. And let's try a couple of these. Just I don't know if this is the most interesting thing to try, but certainly I'm interested in the ally. Let's take a snapshot. Now this is the HTML rendering, but in my other than the background, I believe that this is a pretty good representation of what the doc rendering actually looked like in terms of the color. Now, if the background fades with ally, that makes more sense to me because that would, doggone it, I was just making the same stupid mistake I made all last week. So I'm trying to render with the old previous document open. So it's using green and orange. Green and orange are kind of notorious colors for colorblind perception. So that I'm guessing that's what's going on there. Am I? No, that's. I think that is actually right because red green is, I believe, the most common manifestation of color blindness. So I guess I'm not sure why green is there, but I thought green and orange, maybe they're just high contrast. Definitely different. Let's look at a couple of different ones here, just kind of out of curiosity. Dracula. I believe this is a more recent kind of theming. I did it again. I just got so excited with Dracula. I believe this is a more recent theming. We saw this with Revealed Just Slides as well. It's kind of a black and red theme. Good Halloween theme. It's nice to have themes associated with. Ooh, that's scary. Very scary. Okay. Now this makes me think of something actually. I wonder if we can do themes, like light and dark themes in Word. My understanding is kind of similar to PowerPoint. The main way to control stylings here is going to be through templates, but the code highlighting definitely looks like some of the kind of native Quarto stylings are coming through. Let's see if we can give it a theme. I'm guessing this is not going to work. And some of these I just kind of know off the top of my head because, doggone it, Kulas. Close it. I think I got it in time. Does that look different? Does it? I think the fonts might actually be different. So let's take a snip and I'm going to close it. And we're just going to comment out that theme specification and see if theme is actually working. Because that would be kind of cool. That would be something I could see myself using. No, it's not working. And that's not surprising. didn't expect it to work. But the fact that we're getting theming on the code highlighting, that just that made me wonder. That made me go, and then I went, ah. So you go, and then you go, ah. That's the way of the world. Ah, ah. Yeah, nothing there. Okay, so theme's not doing anything. Should we, we don't have a ton of time here. Let's maybe just play with a couple more syntax highlighting options, or what else can we play with? What else can we play with? It looks like, well, section numbering. Table of contents. I'm not, you would think that would be, you would think true would be a default, but I guess it's not. So let's put that in. See what that looks like. See if it looks any different. I'm kind of skeptical that it's going to look any different. But it would sure be nice if that worked. Now, one of the things that's happening here is I don't have any first level headers, so I'm going to change those to first and second level headers. And comment out the table of contents just to see if by default anything is coming through here. Okay, so no table of contents. But you know, this is workable, definitely. The code blocks are a little weird. I really miss that clipboard. And I'm curious, like, what does this actually look like if we were to paste it into a plain text editor? Okay, so it's got some hard returns in there. We probably also have hard returns, I'm guessing. Yeah, it's just doing all of our hard returns. Okay. What were we going to do? Oh, yeah, table of contents. Let's see what that looks like. This is so, it's so different than the way that I normally structure things that I'm going to forget forever to close out of the document before rendering. What the heck does that mean? That's different. All right, so it gave us a table of contents, but nothing in it. What is that? Let's go back to HTML and see what that looks like. Now, it should have given us something because we have first and second level headers. But again, just kind of playing with this for the first time. There's our table of contents within the HTML document. And that's operating as expected. Ooh, did we leave Dracula in? Why is that black like that? I thought I took Dracula out. Oh, we did leave Dracula in. Oh, because it's an inline code. I gotcha. So I'm confusing myself, but this is also a bit of code. It's just inline code, single tick. So I don't know if I knew that was going to operate like that. Boy, just the HTML documents are so nice. I don't know, why would you even play with Word? I don't get it. So we're getting a table of contents, but no content in it. So let's try numbering sections as well. So if you recall the table of contents that we just had, I can pull it up again. There's no numbering here in terms of Quarto is not number 1, even though it's the first level header. This is not number 2. That will change once we say numbering. The bullet should become 2.1. In terms of specification of that section. So let's see what that looks like. There you go, Quarto 1, running code 2, and bullets 2.1. That looks like what we expect. So let's try the doc now. And then the last thing we'll do probably is maybe read the directions, which is less interesting and less fun, but this has to be this has to be related. Okay. So I'm guessing what happened with our table of contents was that warning message that we got. Now this is nice. Now if we'd rendered to a PDF, we should not only have a table of contents, but we should have links. Now it looks like I can control, so I can control mouse click and it takes me to that, which is nice. If I just do a PDF or typist document type, some of this, I'm not sure all these are gonna, it might break on us here, but we'll try it. But the jumping should be auto enabled, so we shouldn't need to control click. It should just be there in the PDF document type, but it's there in the Word type document, so that was pretty cool. I actually like that. It's nice having that table of contents. Like I said, that's super nice for technical reports. And so there, the hyperlink here is on it's on the title of the section, not the page number. But again, not that big of a difference, but certainly a difference. Okay, nice. So Word looks just fine. Actually, again, that if you're going to, what am I doing? If someone is expecting information from you in a Word document format, this to me is a perfectly viable option in terms of embedding your analyses, your summaries, and your the information that you're interested in processing in terms of data into a report itself. This looks great, and again, the functionality here with the click and, did we lose it? Oh, there it is. Click and control. It takes me to that section. That's not a huge deal. Our cross-reference, did we check that? We should. Oh, it's still operative. I need to control click again. So it looks like cross-references of any type are control click within Word. But again, that might just be a local setting. I don't use Word, so it could be something that maybe you could alter on this, but this is certainly viable if somebody wanted not just a report for you to run, but a report specifically in Word format. This looks great to me. Let's see if we can get the table of contents without the numbering. We should be able to, now that, and I'm going to take Dracula off there. I don't like Dracula. Let's try one. Let's try one other one, as long as we got this open here. Monochrome. That's, Monocut is actually the code highlighting that I prefer in my IDE. Radical. Oh, we got to do radical. There's a radical one. We want to be rebels. We want to be radical. So we're gonna have to do that. So let's try that, and then we'll see if I'm gonna close it this time, and we're gonna see if the table of contents comes without the numbering. It should. I think what happened before was that little pop-up that we got that said there's metadata. I didn't really read it. I just assumed that it was, I don't know, not happy with something else. There it is. That actually looks a little nicer, a little cleaner. And there's the radical. I don't know how radical that is, but it's nice looking. Black and blue, kind of washed out. And the what we saw in the HTML document with the inline code specification, it's not being repeated in the Word doc. So if we were to change that, if we were to say echo false, but if we were to actually do inline code, and I could say R, just give me the n row of the penguins object. First of all, make sure that that's the right command. I confuse n row with n rows. And that's not gonna, so that's actually just gonna report. That's not gonna give us inline code. So, okay, so there's a difference. There's a difference between the kind of single text specification, close it quick, close it quick, close it quick, and the inline R code. So you can, sometimes you can put double ticks around there, and it will kind of be a workaround. So we'll try that just real quick, see what that looks like. So I'm going to put one more tick around that R. And sometimes the editor here in our studio give you a little bit of grief because it tries to autocomplete for you. Oh, I said we were going to be in Jupyter Lab. Kind of forgot. It got to be so much fun that I kind of forgot about that. Okay, it just ran out again, so we would have to do a little more messing around there. Interestingly, it gave it to us in a different font, so it is picking up on this. It's just actually processing it. So we would have to play with that a little bit. Let's just do one more thing. So I'm going to set globally an eval false, which theoretically should just report this and not process it. It might just ghost it, so it might just be nothing. But one last thing to try. So doing that, in order for our visual to show up, I did want to go into that individual code chunk and reverse it. So tell it that, yes, you should evaluate this one. It didn't. Interesting. Okay. So it didn't fail to evaluate the inline code. It was just applying to the code chunks. Okay. Fun. I don't know. I'm kind of impressed. I think the rendering to these Word documents is something that gives you something that looks really neat. If you wanted to further control the way in which they looked, probably templates are the way to go. Just like with PowerPoint, you would create a Word template in Word and then call it up here from within your plain text script itself. Okay, thanks everybody. Next week, if there's something that anyone wants to see, drop me a note. We'll do it. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick a topic. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I'll pick something not Microsofty that sounds like it'll be fun. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good week.